I may not know how to drive a train, but I know how to kill spiders, and Choo Choo Charles is nothing if not a half train, half giga spider from hell. So today, as someone who's played through the whole game and never died to Charles, I'm gonna share my tips about how you can let Charles know that he's actually stuck on the island with you. That's what we're exploring today, alright? Let's do it. And be sure you let me know in the comments what your favorite moment from Choo Choo Charles was. And at 10, Armour Up. When I played this game, my first priority was upping my armor rating, okay? I knew that this was going to be my plan going in, but then when I figured out that one scrap metal repaired 10% of the train, it was an even better plan. I watched Eddie VR play on his second channel and he neglected armor and it was getting him wrecked. So after watching that, I knew that I had made the right call. But what I didn't realize was how insane that made my train right off the bat. You see, I figured that if I didn't have to repair the train as often, then the damage in the end wouldn't really matter. So I focused on the armor and kept the speed and damage leveling together. So when it came to my fight with Charles, it could take some hits before I needed to repair it, meaning that I could focus on damaging and working out a combat strategy. But keeping armor up was so insane that I ended up chasing Charles, like quite literally. After I beat him, I went after him because I was not done with him yet. And it's also something that MatPat did, but he didn't think of these other ones. In at 9, plan the fights. The biggest threat on the island is Charles, and while he will flee when he takes enough damage, he will eventually come back. The thing is though, you don't know when he will come back. You learn early on at the Southern Mine Key mission that he comes in randomly, and that only the first event is scripted. But some people I watched didn't plan for this. If you haven't seen Charles, every second you go without an encounter increases your chances of seeing him exponentially. So when a mission is out of the way or there's not really a fast way to get back to your train, you should do it shortly after a battle with Charles. It's what I did for the Lighthouse mission, the Unmarked Fourth Mine, and the Swamp mission, and all of which I have seen backfire on other players because they did them a while after a fight with Charles. Eddie VR got attacked out of the Fourth Mine, and when he was doing the Pages mission, Charles spawned right after he entered the mine. And MatPat got attacked while in the middle of the island swamp. It helped him get back to the shore faster since Charles launched him, but it also got him killed, so it didn't really help. Plan your missions around your fights if you have to be far from your train for it. In at 8, quick access. This is helpful if you're trying to make your way onto the train in a rush, whether it be because you got spotted by Warren's goons or because Charles decided to show up while you were on the John, but sometimes it can be hard to make it up the ladder. So what if I told you that you didn't actually have to use the ladder? You can get on the train by actually clicking on the gun from the ground. Whatever weapon you have equipped can be mounted from the ground if you're close enough to it. So if Charles is making it impossible to get onto the ladder, or the goons have chased you to the back of your train, you can just hop on the gun and show him who's boss. It doesn't matter which one is equipped, just hop on and then give those goons hell, or instantly dismount and then hit the gas if it's Charles. Either way, it's another way if you're ever in need of it, or you just don't like video game ladders, which I get. And it's 7, weapons. Right off the bat, personally, I suggest getting all of the weapons that you can. Sure, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter all that much. You can do the final fight with the original machine gun, but having all 4 guns right off the bat will be a great help to you, even if you don't have much scrap. The bug spray can slow, the RPG is a massive damage dealer, and Bob is just fun to use and a damn good sniper. All around, they're gonna be useful, especially at the beginning of the game, and then you can worry about upgrading the damage for your train. You have enough time after the first Charles encounter to get some armor and a couple weapons before he shows up again, and if you reverse on the track, you can get the RPG sooner than later. I wonder what happens if you try to leave the barn in reverse, like instead of going forward. Does it let you? I'm gonna have to try that. And at 6, dive. Okay, so Barry and the whole swamp mission thing is a pain in the ass. It is, okay? It's the most intense mission of the game. You're helpless in a swamp and you can hardly move forward, and it takes ages to get there and back. However, it is worth noting that you don't have to drop off the dock into the swamp. You can get a running start and jump off the dock to get even more distance before actually having to deal with the hazard. It's a decent amount given the alternative, and it works the same way on the way back from the island, but there's no real dock there. You just have to jump off the edge of the island, and it won't be as effective, but it still helps. I saw people just dropping off the dock, but if you stay out of the water, you avoid the hazard of Barry for longer. Plus, it doesn't add like 10 minutes to the length of the mission. It's not much, but it's honest work. Also, if you've made it this far and you like Choo Choo Charles, hit like and subscribe, alright? We can do more videos if you keep wanting them, so be sure you let us know. And by the way, my favorite moment was when I told Charles that he was stuck on the island with me. It was fun. Halfway through into number 5, speed. Whoa, settle down. Not what I mean, okay? I mean as a secondary train upgrade, take speed over damage. While yes, armor was my top priority, my my thinking was that if I could at least keep pace with Charles as well, so it was harder for him to catch up, and then have my armor up, the lower damage I was dealing wouldn't really matter, since there was infinite ammo and my train never ran out of fuel. I could just keep going and chip away at him slowly if I needed to, and this turned out to be accurate, especially when you have the slowing weapons like the bug spray flamethrower. This also helps when you're using the rocket launcher, because the further you can keep from Charles, the more you can hit him with the most damaging weapon, which is best no matter where your train or what your train damage is at. MatPat thought the damage and armor were the best ideas, but speed and armor are the way to go because of, the rocket launcher. If you try and hit Charles with the rockets without the speed, you're going to be doing that same damage to your train as well, and that's not worth it, because then it takes the scraps, then they get used more often, and no matter what your armor is, you're going to be repairing a lot. Come on. I've never died to Charles, by the way, alright? I only died twice, because of Barry, because I didn't know that he spawned behind you, and then once in the final mine, when I got caught with a goon's shotgun in my mouth, when I didn't realize I couldn't go back up. That sounded worse than I hoped it would, but oh well, I've said it. In at 4, location. I did talk about how you should time your fights with Charles so that you can do them before any mission taking you away from your train. However, it's also possible to plan where you have your fights with Charles. Yes, he's roaming the map when he leaves, but when he's coming to attack you, he knows where you are. He follows you, after all. So, if you stand in one place for long enough, you should be able to choose where your fights with Charles start by just standing there. It's kind of obvious. Meaning that you can work it out so that you can bring him to a Warren camp so that he can deal with those goons for you, perhaps, since you don't actually have like a weapon of your own only on your train, or you can time it so that when the fight's over, you're closer to the next planned mission. There's an advantage to this because of that, but it doesn't really change all that much, if you're not speedrunning anyway, since you can always just loop back around to the mission. But trying to time it so that you end up closer to it at the end of the fight, rather than further, it makes sense. Getting close to the end in at number 3, resource management. Okay, I kind of touched on this when I was talking about leveling your speed, but you don't have to worry about any resources in this game. You just need scrap. Other than that, you don't have to worry about fuel, coal, ammo, anything like that. You have infinite everything but scrap and health. So remember that when you're upgrading your train or fighting Charles. You won't run out of rockets, your train won't randomly stop going faster, and having more armor doesn't use more fuel. Your train is basically a god, which is a question for MatPat to try and answer, because, we gotta leave him something. But this also makes me think that it would be interesting if Gavin, aka 2-Star Games, added a hard mode, like in an update or a DLC sort of thing, where you did have to worry about those sorts of resources. Like where at the mines you could get coal to fuel your train, and the goon camps could have ammunition for the various weapons. You could bring John Smith explosives and scrap, and he could make rockets for you. It would change the game entirely, but maybe it would make it even better. It would definitely be more intense, and would up the playtime, honestly. Because that's something that critics were mad at. Dude, so what? It's a short game. It's a fun short game. Deal with it. God. But ultimately, in at number 2, quick death. Now, this is mostly for speedruns, which is honestly great, but the quickest way to get back to your train sometimes is just death. Whether it be from fall damage, from enemies, from Charles, a quick death may be the easiest and fastest way through certain situations. With the Barry mission, for instance. I'm not quite sure on the exact times, I haven't really worked out the math, but it might be faster to let Barry kill you, lose the scrap, and then run back to the witch from your train instead of trying to struggle through the swamp. Especially since Barry might decide to linger around you when you're standing still, which can happen. Damn it, Barry. They're going to change the timelines and now you're a squid monster on an island with a giant train spider? Damn. What, did you let your mom live for an extra 3 seconds this time? Is that what cost it? Anyway, losing the 3 scrap can cut out the RNG aspect of that mission, and the same is also true for when you get an egg, since you keep the items that you had before your death. So if you get an egg, you can get killed by a goon and wind up back at the train moving on to the next mission right away. It's an interesting strategy, of course, and it costs some scrap, but if you've spent all of it on your train or managed to keep your remaining scrap low, it could be a very good time saver. It all depends on your priorities. And finally, in at number 1, stealth level 0. While there are stealth sections to this game, like when infiltrating mines or at the various goon camps, for the outdoor sections, you don't need to use stealth at all. If you have the rocket launcher, you can do what I did for the final temple and just start letting them fly. The explosion of the rockets will not only kill enemies if you hit them, but it will also alert the ones who can't see you to your presence, drawing them towards the train and allowing for easy handling. If you do this, you can just walk up to the final egg receptacle and don't have to bother with the, let's be honest, fairly boring and rigid stealth, okay? I love the game, I love pure stealth, but the inability to crouch and it just being like a line of sight system kind of breaks the gameplay for me a little bit, you know? kind of like, I don't know, it would feel better if I could crouch. Even if it was just line of sight, if I just had the ability to crouch, it would have been exponentially better. So if you want to forego the parts of the stealth that are outside, you can just start spamming with your infinite rockets. Plus it's fun because, you know, they're rockets and you're just sending them. Sure, they are said to have horrible range, but just like with arrows, rocks, or anything that you're shooting or throwing, aiming up will help them go further than just firing them straight. I was able to essentially clear the temple using this before I actually walked up to it by luring the goons out with rockets, but I also managed to kill one without even knowing that he was there, so that made me feel pretty damn cool, and I was pretty impressed with that. And if you want to see that and more about Choo Choo Charles, be sure you click the video about to pop on your screen, baby. Yeah! I'm sorry. Thanks for watching.